great comic actor Ralph Fiennes, in my view. We should finish soon, so any final thoughts to send us on our way?
I just don't know, though, brother.
Yeah.
I was thinking when I saw that little gidding, you know, and that central theme of fire. He's already talked about air, he talked about earth, he talked about water in those first three, but in the fourth one, the last poem he ever published, it was about fire.
Yeah.
And the two kinds of fire, the fires of hatred and greed and arrogance and condescension tied to structures of domination. And then the fires of love and compassion and empathy that can keep one enduring and persevering. And it means then that one of the great hopes we have as a species is to try to enact in one's own life the kind of moral and spiritual renaissance and awakening and regeneration and revitalization, not in an isolated way, but in connection with others, forms of solidarity and politics, forms of conversation, forms of relating to each other. And it has everything to do with what Julian talked about, which is kindness. Kindness. And this is very important for somebody like me as a black man, because you see, I come from a people who have always understood that justice is not just what love looks like in public, but tenderness is what love feels like in private. A tender people.
Yeah.
A gentle people. That's what James Baldwin said about Malcolm X. He was the most gentle and tender man I ever met. And then read about Malcolm X in the New York Times. No connection at all, because he hadn't allowed the love to spill over on the vanilla side of town. It took him a while to get there, but he did. But he's loving black people. And so he was loving somebody. It was just too tribal, too narrow, but he was still loving. And everybody has their own challenges when it comes to the tribe and the family and I say clan C-L-A and not KKK. So the question becomes, how then do you keep this fire that even Eliot was talking about?
Yeah.
Fire consumed by fire. Remember the intolerable skirt of flame. We won't go into all of the powerful language that he has connected to that little gidding, that house of fire and the prophetic fire of somebody like a Malcolm or a Fannie Lou or a Rabbi Heschel or Edward Said or Dorothy Day. We can go on, and Ella Baker. All of these are folk on fire with a deep love tied to justice.
There's fire is very important in the book. There's a discussion of the great American, usually known as a nature writer, Annie Dillard. And she describes in this book called Wholly the Firm, written in 1977. There's a whole chapter on it. It's pretty weird. Expertly edited by Edwin, because it was a mess. And it was, she recalls a moth going into a fire when she was camping in the Blue Ridge Mountains of Virginia. And the moth entered the fire and kind of incinerated. Right? And then the flame, the husk of the moth remained alight for 3-4 hours, and she just watched it. And she was reading a book about Arthur Rimbaud, the poet, and about the fire of Rimbaud in those years. And she was and then she begins to think about that as a way of thinking about what it means to be a writer or a thinker or anything, or a worker or just a person. It's the possibility of setting yourself on fire, right? You can do that if you're capable of it. But if you do set yourself on fire, it's the flame that you look at and not the wick. You know, if the candle is alight, you look at the flame and not the wick. So the interesting kind of twist to this story is that the identity of the person who sets themselves aflame is of no particular interest. They were just able to become on fire for a certain period of time. And so the choice that faces you, the way Dillard puts it, as a writer, is whether you're capable of setting yourself on fire or not. And if you are on fire, it's the flame and not you they're looking at.